Welcome to the Scoop, NANP's monthly masterclass series. I am your host, Andrea Granson, Education Program Specialist for the NANP. These masterclasses are recorded and can be viewed at any time by logging in to the NANP members area. Okay, let's get started. Today we present the next anti-aging revolution, beyond NMN and NAD precursors with Jean Bruno. Jean is Professor Emeritus of Nutraceutical Sciences with Huntington University of Health Sciences. Currently, he serves as Chief Scientific Officer of Nutriland USA. With graduate degrees in nutrition and herbal medicine and a 45-year veteran of dietary supplement industry, as well as an award-winning formulator, he has developed natural products for dozens of dietary supplement companies, educated and trained natural product retailers and healthcare professionals, and written hundreds of articles on nutrition, herbal medicine, nutraceuticals, and integrative health issues for trade, consumer, and peer-reviewed publications, as well as authoring books and textbook chapters. Jean was previously on the board of directors for NANP and contributed to the development of the BCHN exam. He likewise contributed to the development of the CDSP program. In addition, Jean hosts two podcast series, the Bioactive Nexus podcast and the Vitamin Professor podcast, exploring nutraceutical-related topics and other issues relevant to the dietary supplement industry. Welcome, Jean. Thank you for joining us today. It's now over to you.
Thank you, Andrea. It's a pleasure to be back doing one of the scoops for NANP and its membership. So thank you, all of you who are watching this today. I think it's a particularly interesting topic, and as we get into it, you'll see maybe why I think that that's the case. So I'm not going to go into this because Andrea already did. That's me. But I want to start with this interesting little quote. This is from Dylan Thomas. "Do not go gentle into that good night, but rage against the dying of the light." That's kind of, I like to call it the something that the baby boomer generation kind of is about. You know, they're sort of the first generation that really wanted to, live longer, live healthier, and do things. And of course, it's gone beyond that now. The other generations are all very interested in all of this. But let me begin by talking a little bit about the anti-aging market and some of the news on NMN. So in terms of the anti-aging global market, it's a big market. It's valued at $59 billion. It's projected to reach $88 billion by 2028, with a compound annual growth rate of 6.9%, which is pretty significant. North America clearly dominates the global anti-aging market. Now, nutraceuticals of note within that marketplace have been NAD precursors, in particular NMN, with a global market size valued at $356 million. And of course, nicotinamide riboside is another one, another NAD precursor, with valued at $91 million. And niacinamide itself, often not considered as part of the NAD precursors, but in fact it is also significant here at about a little over $1 billion. Now, what is NAD and why do you want a precursor to it? Well, NAD is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and which is why we just say NAD for short. It's a coenzyme. It's involved in energy metabolism and a lot of different biochemical processes. I first learned about it back in the year one when I had my first biology class in college, and discovered it was part of it was part of the Krebs cycle and oxidative phosphorylation and these cycles that are involved in making ATP, or energy molecule in the body, and it plays a number of different roles. It is a production of it, unfortunately, decreases with age. So as you get older, you make less NAD. And it is associated with hallmarks of aging. As you make less NAD, you get various other kind of age-related problems. And consequently, it can underlie just many different age-related conditions. Now, if you're able to increase your NAD levels, that can slow some aspects of aging. That's been shown in the literature. Hence the use of NAD precursors like NMN and nicotinamide riboside. As well as niacinamide. However, there's been some issues with NMN in the industry. Back in May of 2022, the FDA sent an acknowledgement letter in response to a NDI notification for NMN saying, yeah, fine, you can proceed with this. And suddenly in October, they changed their whole tune and they said, oh, it's a drug exclusion determination was made because a clinical stage pharma company was researching the ingredient as a drug. So the FDA said, oh, okay, now it's an orphan drug, so you can't have it in supplements anymore. Well, industry was up in arms because they've been selling this stuff. It was never a problem, and suddenly, just because some drug company said, "Oh, we want to investigate this," the FDA made this determination, and then they made that determination again in January 2023 in response to an NDI notification. So that looked like that was it, but industry was up in arms, and industry went really pursued this. The good news is, just this very month of November in 2024, a federal court ruled that the FDA had to cease its unlawful retroactive application of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act against NMN. Saying, in other words, you can't just, if it's already been approved, if it's already been allowed as a dietary ingredient for use in dietary supplements, you can't just go back and go, oh, well, somebody's doing a study on it now, so you can't sell it. So, nevertheless, all of this has impacted NMN sales. Of course, there's still other NAD precursors like niacinamide, nicotinamide riboside, and NADH. That's the good news. Okay, but I told you the title of this has been like going beyond NAD precursors. So let's understand what I'm talking about here. What I'm really talking about is autophagy, which is a vital biological process. So what is autophagy? Autophagy is the body's process of breaking down old damaged cell parts. It allows cells to break these things down and repurpose the salvageable components to new usable cell parts. Think of the cell parts as a bunch of Legos, and some of them are not working so well. So you get rid of those that aren't working and you keep the ones that are, and you rebuild, and you got a more, functional cell. Now, autophagy helps to eliminate cellular clutter. It optimizes its performance, and it plays a big role in healthy aging. As with NAD, autophagy decreases with age, not a good thing. That can lead to a buildup of cellular junk parts, cells that aren't functioning at their best. What's interesting to know is there is a relationship between autophagy and NAD, and it's called the autophagy NAD axis, and you can find that in the scientific literature. What's the relationship? Well, autophagy deficiency depletes your NAD, and NAD enzymes help regulate autophagy, and autophagy helps maintain NAD. So there's a bi-directional feedback relationship between these two processes that are linked to longevity and health maintenance. Definitely, autophagy is a therapeutic intervention target. Just to help give you a visual on this, think of autophagy like this. You got this old, rusted, kind of not so well-functioning engine, but you clean up those cell parts, you get rid of the old ones, you put the new ones in, you clean it up. Now you got an engine that works really well, and that's how you can think of it in the cell. That's why you want good functioning autophagy. Just to give you another sense of this, here's a couple of quotes from a couple of journals worth mentioning. Autophagy promotes cell survival by elimination of damaged organelles and protein aggregates, as well as by facilitating bioenergetic homeostasis. Here's another one. By such actions, autophagy is essential for the prevention of aging. So clearly, autophagy is very, very important. Now, how do you promote autophagy? We know how to promote NAD by NAD precursors. How do you promote autophagy? Well, I'm going to tell you about spermidine and polyamines. So, polyamines are the autophagy promoters. Now, there are three major polyamines, and I'm just going to mention the elephant in the room and say they've got terrible names. Their names are spermidine, spermine, and putrescine. I don't know who named these, but they did a terrible job naming them. You'd think they could have come up with some different names, but that's what they are. Now, these are organic compounds, and they are synthesized in every living cell, and they're found throughout the food supply as well. Now, polyamine intake, especially spermidine, the sort of the major one, have been found to increase autophagy. In fact, in population research, it was found to promote a healthy lifespan in 829 participants that were tracked over a period of 20 years. And it's been shown to help inhibit age-associated pathologies and help inhibit inflammatory states and extend the lifespan of mice. It protects also against a decrease in telomere length in mice. Now, for anybody who doesn't know about telomeres, those are just the little stretches of DNA at the end of chromosomes. They're sacrificial DNA that every time a cell replicates, little pieces cut off. So you don't want any actual genetic material in there. It's kind of blank genetic material that it's okay to cut off. And when it reaches a point where there's no more telomeres, and then cells can't divide, and eventually the cell dies. So reducing telomere shortening can be a great thing. And in the rice-germ polyamines, it's been shown to actually help reduce that shortening. So that's pretty cool. Now let's talk a little bit about the preclinical research done on spermidine. Caloric restriction mimetic. You may be aware of the fact that caloric restriction is one of the methods by which people can extend lifespan. You see it in animals, you see it in humans. They've been able to extend lifespan by reducing caloric intake. Well, it turns out oral spermidine decreased body adipose tissue weight and hepatic lipids in a mouse study. In other words, what it did is it mimicked the effects of caloric restriction without having to do caloric restriction. So that was pretty cool. Now, in cardiovascular health, a high intake of spermidine is correlated with improving cardiovascular health in animals and humans. It's been shown to decrease arterial stiffness and oxidative damage to endothelial cells in arteries, and have just some really good cardioprotective effects in aged mice and via autophagy. Also, it's been shown to have some benefits in blood sugar health, protecting DNA from a glycation. Glycation is when the sugars in your blood combine with proteins and cause problems. And it's reduced glycation in population research in humans as well. And it's been shown to be helpful in eye health, delayed lens pacification, which is basically cataracts. Okay. Now, all that's good, but you really want to see what the clinical research in humans is about. Now, here are some areas you might not have expected. Hair growth. So laboratory research shows that spermidine promoted hair shaft elongation and prolonged hair growth, and it upregulated keratin protein production. Keratin is the major protein in hair, and so it showed that. But in randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study lasting for 30 days, which is a very, very short time for a hair study, found that 60 men and women aged 18 to 60, so a broad range of age groups, with stress-related hair loss. Okay, this isn't male pattern baldness. This is just stress-related hair loss that anybody could conceivably experience. And they had three groups. The first group, Group A, was 0.5 milligram of spermidine by itself. Second group was that same 0.5 milligram, along with some additional other nutraceuticals, some methionine, some vitamin C, some E, and so forth. The third group was a placebo. The results? They found that it helped maintain healthy hair. And what does that mean to maintain healthy hair? That means you're not losing the hair as much, you're keeping it, all right? And you're seeing, and if you look at the bar graph that I showed here, you can see what the result of spermidine alone, as well as spermidine with other nutrients, were, and that's on the left side of the graph. So that's pretty cool. You see, even though it's ever so slightly better with the other nutrients and spermidine, it's pretty darn good with just the spermidine alone. Also, they found an increase in hair stem diameter, or to put into popular nomenclature, hair thickness. So you had an increase in hair thickness with the use of spermidine alone and spermidine with other nutrients, and of course, nothing from the placebo. And with regard to an increase in anagen phase, and what's that? That's the hair growth phase. They found that group A, spermidine alone, had a 17% increase, and group B had a 20% increase. So both really, really good. Group C, placebo, not so much. But that wasn't the only study. There was a second study. This was a 6-month study, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled, 100 healthy men and women. And in this study, they used just the 0.5 milligram of spermidine in combination with those same other nutrients and placebo. The results were increased number of anagen hair follicles, so you had good hair growth, increased cellular proliferation, decreased apoptosis, that's cellular hair death, and no loss of hair in the supplement group compared to a hair loss in 68% of the subjects in the placebo group. This is pretty darn meaningful. It's very, very significant. And in fact, the results were statistically significant. And so that's pretty cool. And how does this work? Well, we do know that it works vis-a-vis helping to stimulate keratin production, but it's also about the autophagy, helping to make more efficient functioning cells, not more, taking the cells that you have and making them more efficiently running vis-a-vis autophagy. And if you look here, here's just some bar graphs showing some of these things. Anagen hair phase, the hair bulbs you see after 6 months of placebo, you had a decrease, the spermidine plus the other nutrients, you had an increase, and a change in the cellular proliferation and apoptosis of hair. See cellular proliferation increased in the spermidine group, decrease in the placebo, and apoptosis, the loss of it, that decreased in the group using the spermidine, and the other group not so much. So, although the spermidine supplement was only given for 90 days, the effect was still evident at least 3 months later. So that's pretty cool. And how is that possible? Well, think about the mechanism of action. You're improving the cells. You're tuning them up. And that beneficial effect of autophagy is still happening even after you stop the spermidine supplementation, although I recommend continuing it. Now, I just wanted to make a note for you about biotin and keratin for hair. Biotin is probably one of the most popular ingredients for hair growth. But here's the real information, is that there's really no human clinical study showing that supplementation with biotin alone benefits hair. Yes, if you have a deficiency in biotin, then you may have hair loss. And by correcting that deficiency, you can go back to normal hair growth patterns. But if you get sufficient biotin, taking more has never been shown to help. So it has an undeserved reputation for helping with hair. There is research on biotin for nails, but not really for hair. So keratin, there is research on it. Double-blind, placebo-controlled trials that showed that supplementation with a keratin hydrolysate at 500 milligrams, together with some other nutrients, was able to help reduce hair shedding. That was pretty cool. But as of this presentation, it costs about $5 for 30 servings of just the raw material, compared to about $1, actually 90 cents, for 30 servings of the rice germ spermidine material. And of course, keratin isn't vegan, so again, not a big deal, but for some people that makes a difference. So just interesting to know. Now, spermidine doesn't just help hair, it also helps cognitive function. So we all know that memory function is less efficient when age increases, in part due to changes in connection between the nerve cells, known as synaptic plasticity. Well, spermidine operates at the synapses, promoting autophagy-dependent regulation of presynaptic specializations, meaning basically it helps those nerve cells be better at communicating. A randomized double-blind study with two groups done over a period of 3 months, 92 men and women, 8 older ones, 60 to 96, with mild to moderate dementia, and given 1.9 milligrams a day of spermidine or 3.3 milligrams a day of spermidine. The results were that there was significantly improved cognitive performance with 3.3 milligrams of spermidine daily. And that was measured by an increase in the mini mental health state examination, a common way of measuring cognitive performance in aging people. Another randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study done over 3 months with 30 men and women 60 to 80 years of age with subjective cognitive decline, which means this wasn't somebody who had dementia, but it was people who have, cognitive decline. As you get older, your memory's not as good as it used to be. Where did I leave my keys? That kind of thing. And in this case, they used 1.2 milligrams of spermidine or a placebo, and the results showed improvements with spermidine in memory performance and mnemonic discrimination, which helps you differentiate between new and previously encountered stimuli. Likewise, a population study with 812 participants, when they measured the amount of dietary spermidine intake from food, found that when there was a significant dietary intake of spermidine, the risk for cognitive impairment decreased with higher levels of spermidine, and you had actually even greater improvements. So pretty cool stuff. Now, there's also some data on hormones and spermidine. In an open label trial, that's a trial without a placebo group, and 15 healthy adults, they looked at spermidine and spermine ranging between 2.5 and 5 milligrams over 30 days. And in men and women, they found interesting results. They found decreases in cortisol, the stress hormone, across the board, which is great. DHEAS, the form of DHEA measured in serum, and beneficial for aging and as a precursor to other hormones, increased in significant amounts. There was a testosterone increase in both men and women. And don't worry about the testosterone increase in women being a bad thing, because women make testosterone too, and they need that. And progesterone in men, that decreased, and in women it increased. Again, a very positive result. And then we had, sorry for those of you who are listening and hear my dog barking, one of the benefits of working at home. I'm just going to wait a moment until my dogs stop going crazy, because I think you're going to have trouble hearing me.
Gene, don't worry. I can't hear your dog, and I can always edit this little bit out.
Oh, good.
We can pause for a second anyway. Don't worry. I can't hear
you. I'll continue. Let's see. Okay. So, let's see. Yeah. And then finally, estradiol, the primary estrogen, decreased in men, increased in women. So it was a good thing. Now, I also would like to take a moment to mention the natural versus synthetic spermidine. In some cases, there isn't a profound difference between natural and synthetic, and in some cases there are. So with regard to natural versus synthetic spermidine, the natural spermidine has been in our food supply for millennia with an excellent safety profile. You find it in rice, germ, you find it in many other foods. The synthetic has had limited data for short periods of use, so we don't know what long-term effects of it might be. When you get natural occurring spermidine, it also includes the other polyamines present besides spermidine. Synthetic contains only synthetic spermidine trihydrochloride. Natural means those other polyamines can actually help you produce more spermidine. For example, putrescine gets converted into spermidine, so you get more than just the amount given. Of course, this is not applicable with synthetic, so that's an advantage. Also, I wanted to mention that natural spermidine and synthetic spermidine aren't exactly the same. If you look at their molecular formula, they are different. Make no mistake, synthetic spermidine will yield spermidine. But there have been no studies showing that the synthetic is equivalent to the natural form. So I just wanted to make that point. Now, I want to mention a particular form of spermidine I am fond of, and I want to let you know, full disclosure, the company where I serve as chief scientific officer is the one who makes this, so keep that in mind. But this is one derived from rice germ, and it is comes as a 1 or 2% spermidine. This is just a raw material. It's not a finished good, but there are products on the market that contain it. And it contains spermidine with all the other naturally occurring polyamines. There are other sources, synthetic and wheat-derived, although the wheat-derived one might be a problem for people who will have a gluten sensitivity or wheat allergy. Also, the rice germ-derived material is upcycled, meaning rice germ is a byproduct of modern milling process. And otherwise, the rice germ gets thrown away or just tossed into animal feed. So it's rescued and used as an upcycled material to help in the creation of these rice germ polyamines. Also, it's about 20 times more concentrate than some other forms of spermidine on the market, such as like the wheat germ derived one. So it's a lot more potent. If you wanted 5 milligrams of spermidine, you could use 250 milligrams of the rice germ one, or you could use 4,500 milligrams of the wheat germ derived one. So the benefits of spermidine are it's a autophagy promoter. It can serve as a complement to NAD precursors. So if you have a product that has NAD precursors in it, and you want to, because we know that there's a relationship between NAD and autophagy, you could combine it with spermidine. It's an alternative to NAD precursors if you just want to step aside and not worry about that. And it's a very novel hero ingredient for other applications: hair growth, cognitive function, hormonal balance. So therefore, it's a pretty cool. And in the particular one from our company, it has a lot of certifications. It's vegan, it's allergen free, it's kosher, it's sort of everything you want it to be. So, by the way, this particular material, our rice germ polyamines, actually won the Nutrition Industry Executive New Ingredient Award for 2023 in the personal care category as a hair growth promoting nutraceutical. So it's had that particular recognition. Okay. People who are interested in more information, I post a lot of articles on LinkedIn, so I have a number of articles about it, including articles on it for hair growth, its role as a nutraceutical for the autophagy NAD axis, articles on natural versus synthetic, and a role in reducing body fat. And there's all kinds of available data, cell sheets, white papers that I've written, specs, many things. And basically, in a nutshell, that is it. That is my presentation on, NAD, beyond NAD precursors and what autophagy is all about, and spermidine and polyamines. And should you have questions you'd like to direct toward me, if you have scientific information you're interested in, there is my email address, gene.bruno@nutraland. Oops, I see I left out the A. It should be NUTRA Land USA. So that was a typo. .com. So feel free to direct those toward me. If you have specific sales data, like you got a brand and you want to do something with it, just contact the sales department there. They can help you. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting. And that's it for this particular edition of The Scoop.
That was fantastic, Jean. I was rapidly writing away. Full confession, I haven't heard of spermidine, so that was super interesting. And I think, like you said, everybody is so engaged in anti-aging, especially the younger generation, of course, but in a somewhat different way to perhaps our generation. So that was fantastic. No doubt our members will absolutely love this. Yeah, we can change the when we send out the, or we host it, we'll change the spelling. I'll update that for you.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to thank anybody or everybody who's listening, and just to remind everybody that this can be viewed in the NANP's member area, along with a vast selection of cutting-edge masterclasses. So each masterclass has a corresponding quiz where you can earn 1 continuing education credit. And if you have an interesting topic you would like to present, or if you know any speakers you would like us to host, please feel free to reach out to me, Andrea, at namp.org. So that brings us to the end of our discussion. Thank you all for listening.